I fought to keep my anxiety down, as the human slowly ambled along an animal trail, staring intently at the leaves and grass and dirt, as if they were infoglyphics on the screen. Time was short, and he was squatting down and looking closer at the leaves and grass and dirt. I know you're an expert at shooting wild animals, and therefore supposedly good at finding people, but you're just standing there. We should at least be looking for him. The human just cocked his head, as if watching something move along the ground, and said, "We are," before slowly moving deeper into the forest. I made to follow, and he flung his arm up, deigning to put his manipulator with its few stubby, bony digits on my chest. "Follow around behind me," he said softly. "Don't step in the trail." "The trail was back there," I nearly yelled. "If he followed the path of least resistance, that would be it." He didn't. You can see how the leaves are disturbed? Here, here, and there. They're dark because they've been flipped over, but long enough ago to dry out, so I'd say these tracks are from earlier this morning. The strides are long for his height, so he was running. That means he was scared, and probably more focused on covering distance than conserving energy. This is probably the start of his trail. If he'd gone the other way, he would have hit the road and almost certainly followed it. I stared at the lummox. The leaves were leaves, but apparently this simple killer of wild beasts was all that the local colony governance board could spare, given everything else that was happening. We walked along, him looking at the ground, then ahead of us, stopping and starting, barely moving. I struggled to maintain my composure. "Look," he said, pointing to some infinitesimal flecks of mud on a tree. "That must have splashed off his shoes. Since it's on this side of the trunk, it means we're going in the right direction." That admittedly made sense, although I still doubted he was actually looking at evidence of a person's passing. We were in a forest, a place of mud and trees. Of course they got on each other. We walked this way for hours, with exhausting and agonizing slowness, with him pointing out random pieces of the forest floor and proclaiming them evidence, until he stopped, backed up, and began looking around. Squatted, looked along the ground, laid down on the dirt and leaves for some reason, and looked along the ground. "I don't see any more sign. I'm gonna do a spiral, see where I find. You stay right here so I have a reference point." He walked in a slow, ever-widening circle around me, and I despaired. Eventually, he passed out of sight. It was past midday, and the temperature would start to drop soon. It would be dangerously low by dark, and we had to find him soon. There was a sharp whistle, and I saw the human beckoning for me to join him at the limit of visibility in the trees. I ran as well as I could over the uneven ground, and he pointed at a plant low on the ground. "Gurkberries. They sell them in town, and they've been picked, not nipped off by an animal. Between this and the prints I found a couple yards back, we're back on his trail." This was the first time I had seen something that actually looked like a person. A theolid had moved through. I recognized the leaves and the vines, and the way part of the berry cluster tore away when plucked. We were actually following him. He had apparently slowed, which made the signs of his passing fainter but more numerous and closer together, until the signs indicated that he started running again, and the footprints of an animal had crossed his. "It's just a grepid. A herbivore that's all flight and no fight. They probably snuck up on each other and both got scared and started running." That was both unnerving and reassuring, and we found a dropped berry and a part of a shoe print in a patch of mud. I was elated, but the chill was growing, and time was running short, and the trail we were following led right to a river. "Can he swim?" the human asked. "No. There had been no need to learn such a thing." Human's oddly malleable face mushed into an expression of concern, instead of focus for the first time, then mushed back. He performed another circular search, and after another agonizing wait called to me. "This ain't really a good sign, but it's the best I've found, and I think it's him," he said. "We'll follow it for a ways. If it don't get better, we'll go back and try the other direction." I non-verbally signalled assent. It was getting cold. I was becoming completely despondent when the human exclaimed rather sharply and darted forward. A footprint. A long, smearing one where he slid trying to step up a low, muddy swell. Look! Where the mud's pushed up's dry at the tips, but it's damp toward the bottom and inside. And there ain't no leaves fallen in it yet? This is fresh. Maybe a couple hours at most. He restrained me from surging forward, to keep from obstructing the trail, but even I could see his passage where his muddy shoe had displaced the leaf litter. We followed the trail at a more urgent pace, our breath now steaming gently, and trusted him to follow the path of least resistance. Our haste paid off, and eventually we found a much damper, and therefore fresher, shoe print in some damp soil at the base of a slight hill. We abandoned this trail, and at the human suggestion we began yelling his name as loudly as we could, and listened. The human's head snapped to the left. He listened intently and pointed. "Over that way!" He ran for a distance, and I struggled to follow, and listened again as I yelled his name again. "Paternal One?" I heard him! "Paternal One!" We yelled until we found each other, and when I finally scooped on my eldest offspring, I collapsed in relief and happiness. The hunter had taken a blanket from his pack and wrapped it around us to keep the growing cold at bay, or he called for a rescue VTOL and gave them our location. I do not know if the water leaking from his eyes was the result of the cold or his exertion, but I will never disparage the skills of a human again.